All right, Kevin, I just want to thank Rabbi Mayerfield for coming to give me the schus and honor visiting me last night. It's very few people I would have gotten up for, but Kevin, I get upstanding.
Thank you. It was only to visit a tzaddik. It was a schus for me to visit a tzaddik like you, a Talmud Chochem, a Rosh Hashiva.
So listen, it was so exciting to see Kevin because I haven't seen him since he's written that exam of the foreign language course where he came last time. And the thing of it is he was studying so hard last time. We didn't get to see him except for once. It was before lockdown. So it's been about 1.5 2 years, I think. Kev, it was lovely.
Nearly 2 years, yeah.
So, Kevin, take it away, sir. Teach us.
Okay. Continuing with the 3 meals. Okay. It says here, during the morning meal, one should try not to overeat so that an appetite will remain for the 3rd meal in the afternoon. Sudash Lishit. Which should preferably be made with two chalot. If one does not have sufficient appetite, one may then fulfill one's duty of the 3rd meal by eating a grain food, fruit, or some other snack. And also, you can learn Torah. You can do it. You can learn Torah as well. It doesn't say it here, but you can do that as well as a substitute.
Explain.
Okay.
Explain what you mean.
I've heard that. You can let's say if you learn something.
Yes.
In lieu, with intention of fulfilling Sudash Lishit. If you don't feel like eating, you can learn something.
Okay.
So you either learn something, or you have mezonot, or you have what does it say here? A fruit or another snack, or learn some Torah.
It's quite interesting. At also Me'af Ken Hazel, half the guys that are in the show at Mincha don't come to Sudash Lishit, and they keep learning. They sit down and learn Torah during that period. So that's maybe why they do that.
Unless they have Sudash Lishit earlier. Yeah, possibly, yeah.
No, some of them have had a Sudash Lishit at home, but I think maybe some of them haven't. I'll inquire.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so that's...
but third
is often referred to as Shalosh Sudas, 3 meals, since by eating it one has fulfilled the mitzvah of consuming 3 meals. It is not necessary to make Kiddush at the 3rd meal.
Okay, cool.
I think we knew that.
All right, guys, we're going to get started now. Kevin, thank you very, very much.
And by the way, on that thing, just realize something. We're always about eating something. We're either feeding our mind or we're feeding our body.
Yeah.
We're always feeding something.
Absolutely.
I agree.
But some of us tend to feed garbage. That's myself I'm talking about.
Okay, guys, let's get started before we talk garbage. Kevin brought us real things. Let's get started. All right, Kev, did you have a chance to review the video yesterday or not? If you didn't,
yes,
you did. Okay.
I don't know how my car absorbed, but I tried my best to try and absorb.
Right. So we're going to do a minute or two of review. I always find when we do review from the previous day, it actually helps us tremendously. Okay, so I'm going to fly through the review. All right. The Mishnah discusses the scriptural passage concerning a tam that gores. Okay, that was the Mishnah. I'm going to share my screen. And, okay. And just hang on a second. Sorry, guys, give me a sec. It's just bouncing a bit. Apologies.
What?
Okay. That's fine. All right, Arthur, read it.
I knew it. Yeah. The Mishnah discusses the scriptural passage concerning the tam that gores. If an ox that is worth 200 zuz gored another ox that is worth 200 zuz, and the carcass of the gored ox is worthless, Rav Meir said, concerning this case, it is stated, they shall sell the live ox and divide its money. Rav Yehuda said to him, the halacha is indeed so. However, by interpreting the verse thus, you have fulfilled only the directive, thou shalt sell the live ox and divide its money. But you have not fulfilled the additional directive, and the dead one too they shall divide. But which is the case that the verse refers to? Is it the case of an ox worth 200 zuz that gored another ox worth 200 zuz, and the carcass is worth 50 zuz, in which this one takes half of the live ox and half of the dead one, and this one takes half of the live ox and half of a dead one?
Excellent. Arthur, just goes to prove if you read the Mishnah 3 times, you say it better on the third time.
So, Damon,
Yeah.
you said you wanted to devote this Torah, this shira, to the neshamot of of the victims at Meron. Remember, you told me last night.
Yes. If you could announce, if you could just announce it louder, that this particular Mishnah we've just read is in dedication to the 45 people that died at the Meron tragedy when they were crushed observing Lag BaOmer. Kevin, thank you so much for reminding me. I really appreciate it. So we'll dedicate this year to that, especially the Mishnah. And I hope the Neshomas make an aliyah. It's a tragedy.
Amen.
I can't even imagine. So thank you very, very much. So here we're talking about the fact that...
sorry, James. Yeah. On that topic, by the way, quite a few people I know, their family was actually there. They weren't hurt, like Dr. Banks' son was there. Okay, and Nadine's, her boss's one kid was there as well. So they were also in a bit of a state when this happened.
I'm sure.
And Arthur, David Tabak's nephew was killed. You know from KBA Shaw. His nephew was one of the son-in-law. Wow. His son-in-law was one of the victims.
Jeez.
It's
been a big thing, yeah.
It's terrible. I just sent a thing that I posted. I posted it to the group. Maybe we can add it to the show. Damon, just want to have a quick look. It's pictures of all 45 guys, and then I put text on it. I actually posted it on Facebook, but it's very good. I think it will be nice to put it at the beginning of this.
All right.
Just have a look in the Bava Kamma group. You'll see. It takes 1 second.
I understand, but my phone's off at the moment for reboots.
Okay, then I'll share the screen, Dan. Hold on.
No, just share it for a second, just to show it. It's very good.
Okay, just put on for me. Let me share, Dan. I can share it for you.
The pictures I've got from somewhere, but I added the text myself.
Okay, I'll allow you to do that. Okay, you can do it.
Okay, I'm just maximizing the screen and zooming in. Okay, I'm just going to go outside. Okay, and just go back to the thing and share.
Just hang on, guys. Oh dear.
Okay, I'll just pause.
Okay. Share your screen.
Okay, I'm going back to share. Okay, share. Okay, I'm going to zoom in and then I'll do this. Okay, start from the top.
I think if we can add this at the beginning, it will be nice, eh?
No, I can.
And then Arthur, at the end, when we do a static picture, you can add this, please, for 3 or 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Okay. Maybe 10 seconds because you can read all the names.
Okay.
Thanks, mate.
Scott, thanks, guys.
Okay.
Sir, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought this was valuable.
No, it was valuable. Thanks, Gav. Art?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get out of it. Oh, wait. I'm not that good at this, Dan. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get out of this meeting thing. How do I stop sharing it? It doesn't give me the option. I mean, I can see it. It says meeting controls, but I don't see the meeting controls. It doesn't bring it up. Oh, it's on the other side of the screen. Sorry. Okay, it's done. Thanks. And move to my other screen.
Thanks, Arthur. Much appreciated.
All right. Let's get started quickly for a summary review. All right. I'm just going to do a summary review for a few minutes. We've got 6 minutes, and then we've got a 40-minute solid shear. Okay. So the Gemara cites a brayse in which Rabbi Meir responds to Rabbi Yehuda's challenge. The rabbis taught in a brayse, if an ox worth 200 zuz gored another ox worth 200 zuz and the carcass is worth 50 zuz, This one, the damager takes half of the live ox and half of the dead one. In this one, the damaged party takes half of the live ox and half of the dead one. And this is the case of the ox that gored that is discussed in the Torah. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says this is not the case. The ox that gored that is discussed in the Torah. Rather, if an ox worth 200 zuz gored, another ox worth 200 zuz, and the carcass is worthless. Concerning this case, it is stated, they shall sell the live ox and divide its money. So the major difference is Rabbi Meir is turning around and saying that the archetypical case in the Torah is one where the carcass is worthless. So the question arises, well then how would you explain and they divide the dead one? Because if the carcass is worthless, what's there to divide? Does that make sense? So that was the question asked yesterday. I'm sorry, it's in review. So we say that there's two ways to work out the calculation. So to give you a clue, Rabbi Meir says, look, when it discusses the dead one, what it means is the difference between the living animal's worth, which is 200 zuz, and the dead animal's worth. If the carcass is worth 0, then you have to pay the 200 zuz from choice property if it's muad. If it's tam, you pay 100 zuz. But if you're dealing with another case, but not the archetypical case in the Torah, he's not saying there's no other case, but he's saying the one with the carcass is worthless is what's mentioned in the Torah. In that particular case, you'd minus the value of the carcass. So, for example, I'll just give you a thought here that, say, for example, the carcass where we said, according to Rav Yishmael's case, is worth 200 zuz, right? Sorry, Rav Yehuda's case where it's worth 50 zuz, the dead carcass. So the attacking ox is worth 200 zuz. The damaged ox or dead ox now is was worth 200 zuz. The carcass is worth 50 zuz. Guys, what does that remain?
What, money-wise, you mean?
Yes, money-wise. Well, sure.
Yeah, so you're gonna divide both. You can.
So what is the figure?
It will be 75.
No. It's 150.
25.
120. It's 250. 125.
Guys, there's two ways to work it out. Let me just explain it to you. You've got it. I know you guys know it 100%. So the dead animal when it was alive is 200 zuz. Its carcass is worth 50 zuz. So the remainder is?
Is it time the animal?
Well, you still have to work out the total before you work out.
Yeah, you still have to work it out. You're correct. Sorry.
So it's 150 zuz, correct. Divided by 2 is 125 zuz. Right. So
75.
So it's 250. You said 150 zuz. It's 250 zuz.
Sorry, 200 minus 50 zuz is 150 zuz. Sorry, not 2. 150 zuz. Divided by 2, divided by 2.
75.
35.
Correct. Is 75.
That's what I said, Damon. I did say that.
Gab, I understood you said that. What I was asking from you is the amount before you divide.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm saying the one calculation is exactly as Gavin said. You take the remainder between the living animal and the dead, and the remainder is, in this case, 150. If it's time, you only pay 75. However, how does Rav Yehuda work it out? He says you combine the value of the live animal and the carcass. So what would you have the total being here, guys?
250.
250, yes. How do we get 250?
That's 200 for the live animal, 50 for the carcass.
Exactly. And then what you do is you sell the live animal and the dead, and each one gets?
Oh.
Which is?
125.
125, correct. So how does this work out the same mass? Well, if you have the live animal and you're selling it and you have to give the other guy half, and it's worth 200 zuz, the attacking ox, then 125 zuz minus 75, you'll get that from 200, which means that the damager, the attacking ox's owner, will keep the 125 and he'll give away 75, which is the difference between the attacked ox that was alive at 200 and is now worth only 50 as a carcass. And it's the same thing with the damaged party. If he's receiving 125, it makes no difference if he receives it on the sale combined or he gets 75 rand from the damaged 75 zuz from the damaged party, and then sells the, the carcass, and retrieves another 50 zuz and gets 125. It works out the same either way. And Gavin, you understood it 100%. There's no issue there. I'm just saying, when we're doing totals, give the total before we do the division, so that people that are listening that haven't done Chazorah can understand what you're saying. That's all. Okay. So what's the explanation of the dead one too they shall divide? How would Rabbi Meir Gas explain that?
If it's worthless.
If it's worthless, yeah.
How do they divide it?
The carcass is worthless.
Yes. Because, well, exactly. So that's exactly the point, as Gavin said. So there's no problem according to Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir says you merely make the difference between the animal while alive to dead. If the carcass is worthless, well, guess what? Tough luck for the damaged party. And you just pay the difference divided by half if it's time, exactly as Gavin said. But there's a problem if we want to explain it according to Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you combine the value of the dead animal and the live animal, and in that particular case, he uses the classical example in the Torah where the carcass was worth 50. So there's no problem. The problem is in Rabbi Meir to explain it, which we just did now. Okay. And the dead one too they shall divide. This means that the depreciation that death caused to the gored animal, they divide in the value of the living one. In other words, the damaged party is reimbursed for half of the difference between the value of the animal during his life and its value after death through the sale of the living ox. Okay? So it doesn't mean that the damager takes half of the carcass. That's according to Rabbi Meir. That doesn't mean that at all. He has no stake in it at all. It means that the loss in the value of the dead animal is assessed and the damager pays half of it. Thus, they divide the loss caused by the death of the animal. That's according to Rashi. So Rashi said there's no such thing as the damager taking half the carcass and they sell it together. It's just minused as a costing, that's all, if it's worth anything. All right, so Kevin, Arthur, and Gavin understand it. Just quickly, the Gemara analyzes this dispute. Now let us see, according to both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, in the case where an ox worth 200 zuz gored another ox worth 200 zuz, and the carcass is worth 50 zuz, this one takes 125 zuz, and this one takes 125 zuz, and each of them suffers a loss of 75 zuz, which is half the amount of the damage. What then is the issue between them? An answer is proposed. Rava said the matter of liability for depreciation of the carcass after death is an issue between them. Rabbi Meir holds that depreciation of the carcass is, do they share it, or is it only paid by the damaged party? Gavin?
Only paid by the damaged party.
Excellent. You see, guys, he's a good advert for that. What's that, Vata Force?
Yeah.
Turbovite. Yeah, Gavin's before and
focus.
after. You should see how sharp Gavin is now that he's taken it. So he's a good advert for it. So exactly that. I hope Turbovite kicks us some money, by the way.
And Damon, he's very sharp, but he's very calculated. That's why he's very sharp also.
Exactly. He's a sharp calculator. That's it.
This year is sponsored by Turbovite.
and Sharp and Casio products.
And yeah.
All right, so listen, basically exactly as Gavin said, Rabbi Meir holds that depreciation of the carcass is entirely the damaged party's liability. But Rav Yehuda holds that half the depreciation of the carcass is the damager's liability. So there's obviously a problem here. The problem is if death itself depreciates the ox's value by 150 zuz, right? And the value of the carcass subsequently decreased by maybe another 25 zuz before it was sold. So Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda disagree as to who suffers additional loss. According to Rabbi Meir, the carcass belongs entirely to the damaged party. The damager has no stake in it and doesn't bear liability for anything other than the depreciation caused by death. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, the damager takes half the live animal and half the dead one, and the damaged party takes half of each one. So they literally take half. So therefore, it's in that case that the damager is paying half the depreciation, because they
So
literally
they're sharing their cost.
Yes, because they're
Of the
physically
depreciation.
taking the item and selling it physically. So obviously, if they're sharing it together, both the live and the dead, according to Rabbi Yehuda, then obviously the damager is paying half the depreciation. That's the explanation by Rashi and the Maharsha. It's unusual. Why? Because obviously we never learned like that before. What did we learn before? That in the case standardly of a pit, I create a pit, your animal falls and it dies, you have to pull it out the hole and you have to pay for the depreciation of the carcass. Now, the minute the animal dies, it's the damaged party's responsibility because the carcass is going to deteriorate. So therefore, the damaged party has to move himself. And the damager is actually paying enough, by the way. He's paying a lot. So the damaged party has to move himself. So why there's a difficulty here is because we don't understand how with a tam animal, it's more stringent than a muad animal. What's the proof? If an animal falls in a pit, you pay full payment damages for what's owed between the living and the dead animal, not half payment. For if mave, man damages, if it's a pit, if it's a fire, if it's a shane or a regal, full payment. So there, the damager doesn't have to pay for depreciation. So in the case where the animal's tam, what makes you think now that it's more stringent than muad, that a payer of a tam animal that damaged has to now pay for depreciation? That's what the Gemara is going to ask. It doesn't make sense. Am I making sense to you guys at least? So it's using that as an example. So Abaya said to him, in other words, Abaya's response to Rava is, so then we find that according to Rav Yehuda, a tam is subject to a more stringent law than a muad is. For in regard to a muad, the law is that depreciation of the carcass is entirely the damaged party's liability. Whereas you say that in regard to tam, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the damager is liable for half the depreciation. Does that make sense? So that's a buyer's reaction to Rava, which is a very good refute. Now, a buyer's expecting something to go against him now. So what is he expecting? Well, we're going to learn in the 45th daf in Bet that there's a case where if you tied up your ox, but you tied it like a very loose knot and you didn't look after it, if the muad ox damages, you don't have to pay anything. But if the tam ox damages, you have to pay half. So in regard to loosely tying things up or not tying up with effort, in other words, it was guarded minimally, as it says. In that particular case, we can see tam is more stringent than muad. Okay, so Abaya says, listen, I know you're going to bring that Gemara to me. And why do we not know it? We haven't learned it yet. These guys do it backwards. He said, but let me just tell you something. There's a difference between the rules about guarding it minimally, where there's an exception there, compared to with regards to payment. Because with regards to payment, the owner of the tam still pays half, with the limitation up to the body of the damaging animal, which is a second leniency, and the muad pays full time. So with regard to payment, muad is more stringent always than tam. And Abai anticipates a response and rejects it. And if you will say that it is indeed so, and a tam is treated more stringently than a muad, according to Rav Yehuda, as we learned in a Mishnah concerning an ox that was guarded minimally and broke loose and gored another ox. Rav Yehuda says if the ox was tam, the owner is liable, but if it was muad, he is not liable. I will counter, when did you hear Rav Yehuda say that a tam is subject to a more stringent law than a muad is? It is in regard to the degree of guarding required. For there are verses written in the Torah which imply that a minimal degree of guarding does not exempt the owner of a tam from liability, but does exempt the owner of a muad from liability. But in regard to determining the payment required, have you ever heard Rav Yehuda that says that tam is treated more stringently than a muad? While we learned the opposite in a brisa. It might have been thought that if an ox is worth, okay, so it's now going to use an example. So we're saying, listen, we've learned the opposite from Rav Yehuda. This is what Abai is saying. Is that in fact, and he's going to bring this price now, If an ox is worth a manna, Gordon ox that is worth 5 salam, and the carcass is worth a selah, so that the damage amounts to 4 salam. This one takes half of the live ox and half the dead one, and this one takes half of the live ox and half the dead one, even though the damaged party will thereby receive more than the amount of his loss. So what Abai is saying is, in fact, it's the opposite. In fact, the tam is so lenient that the damaged party could end up, could end up making money. So what he's saying is, let's just take a selah and a manna and all of these out. Can we use zuzim, which are easy? Let's use zuzim. So, okay, a manna is 100 zuz. Gavin remembered that yesterday, which was brilliant. 5 salam is 20 zuz. So then a selah is worth 4 zuz. Okay? So, if my ox, called Arthur's ox, is worth 100 zuz, okay? And Arthur's ox was worth 20 zuz, and the carcass is worth 4 zuz, how much do I actually owe Arthur if my ox was muad? I'll repeat this again.
Yeah, just give us the numbers again. Yeah,
okay, my attacking ox is worth 100 zuz. Arthur's dead ox is worth, when it was alive and happy and Betsy was alive, Betsy was worth 20 zuz. Now that Betsy's pushing up daisies, her carcass is worth 4 zuz. My ox is muad. How much do I owe Arthur?
20 zuz.
16. It was 20 alive, and the carcass is worth 4. What's 4 minus 20?
Yeah, 4 minus 2. Sorry, the
okay,
carcass value is 4. Yeah, so 16, yeah,
so
sorry.
If it was muad, I would owe Arthur 16 zuz. There's nothing to talk about. We're saying there's a problem here with Rabbi Yehuda, a bias say. Okay, what he's saying is the problem is as follows. If you want to, now, by the way, there's no problem with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda wasn't alive anymore. So they're trying to work out Rabbi Yehuda. You know, one day at 120, Rabbi Yehuda will explain this to us. So let's not criticize him. Let's just deal with the explanation given on his behalf, which he can't defend at the moment. But we'll give him the benefit of he knows what he's doing. All right. So what we're saying is, if you share the living and the dead, you've got a problem. My ox that attacked Arthur is worth 100 zuz, right? So what happens is Arthur and I share it as partners. So how do we share it? Well, Arthur and I get 50 zuz each. Are you with me? Then we take Arthur's dead carcass that's worth 4 zuz, and I get 2 zuz, and Arthur gets 2. So now Arthur's made 52 zuz. But he's only actually owed 16 zuz. So the problem that the Gemara has is, if you sell the live and the dead one, is if the living one, and Arthur brought a brilliant point yesterday. He said it's always a bigger ox that's more likely to kill a smaller ox. It's the most common thing. So in that case, the damaged party is always going to make money, and the damager is always going to lose money if you want to sell the living and the dead together. So in that particular case, I'm just going to let Stephen Hurin and tell him that we almost finished the shiur, because there's no point. He's not going to understand it. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to not let him in. Sorry, guys. Stephen, hi, how are you?
Good news, emotional, but right, yes.
Shame, man. Listen, firstly, I wish you long life on your mom's. It's a secular birthday, is that right?
That's right, civil birthday, is correct.
So I wish you long life. We all wish you long life.
Thank you, guys.
We're just wrapping up the shiur, but we wanted to invite you just to wish you long life, even though we're wrapping it up now.
Okay, I thought I'd just pop in to say hello to you.
All right. Well,
okay.
Thank you.
It's not an hour today, see.
Sorry?
The shiur not an hour.
Yeah, but we're just doing a summary review
Here.
Yeah, we're just doing a summary review and
Okay,
a issue
okay.
of like a whole lot of previous learning. So it's not going to make any sense. But listen, we're starting the second book in 2 weeks or whatever, and you're more than welcome to join at the beginning when you're going to know what's going on. So we're just going to continue. But thank you for stopping.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
All right. Yes, I thought I'd just pop in to say hello.
Thanks, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a hard one, but what can we do? And it's Mother's Day and the Sunday as well. So it's a challenging month.
It is challenging, I know. I really
yeah, carry on.
And long life, my friend.
Wish you long life, Steve.
Wish you long life, Steve.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Cheers, but have a good day.
You too, then.
Cheers.
I'll stay for a while. My battery's dying, but I'll stay for a couple of minutes to listen.
Okay.
All
right. So let's just carry on. So what we're saying is there's a problem here. Arthur was quite right that the minute the attacking animal is heavier than the lighter animal, it's going to kill it. It's common. So therefore, the damager in a Tam case makes 52 zuz instead of 16 on a muad, and we're saying this cannot be. It doesn't make any sense that this could be the practical way in reality. And what we learned from this is that it certainly stops where the damaged party cannot make any money from this. The only thing that we can ask ourselves is, would it be the case where it would have to be equal to what it would pay for the muad? In other words, does it have to pay at least the 16 zuz, or would it still be liable only to pay the 8 zuz? Do you know what I'm saying? That's what we've got to clear up. But as far as I know, even though it doesn't clear it up in the Gemara, I'm assuming that he pays 8 zuz and not 16 zuz. I'm assuming. It doesn't make sense that he'd pay the same as a muad.
Right. There has to be, what's that limiting factor that, remember, we did it before?
It's a simple, it's a dayu. It's a dayu.
Dayu, that's a dayu.
So it's simply going to say that the damaged, correct, that the damaged party can't make money off this at all. And that you can't expect him to be the same as a muad. So.
Yeah, you can't exceed the muad amount.
Exactly. So to preclude this line of reasoning, you can say, why was a muad singled out by the Torah and discussed separately from a tam? What do you mean singled out? Well, if you look at Shmot, chapter 21, verse 35, that deals with the muad in chapter 36, but in chapter 35, it deals with the tam. Do you get what I'm saying? So the very reason that it separated it, why would it separate it if the halacha was the same regarding payment? It would not. So the very fact that it was separated by verse means the payment structure is different. So was it to be more stringent regarding it, or was it to be more lenient regarding it, the Gemara says? You may say that it was to be more stringent regarding it with respect to the amount of payment. For the owner of a muad pays full damages, whereas the owner of a tam pays only half. You should therefore say the following kol v'chomer. If even the owner of a muad pays only that amount which the muad damaged, is it not certain that the owner of a tam which is more lenient will not pay more than the amount that the tam damaged? So that's your dayu on the kol v'chomer. Yeah, exactly. Perforce, the damaged party does not receive half of the value of the living animal when it is more than the amount of his loss. Okay, it's very, very clear that there's nothing that one needs to even explain. So although tam is more stringent concerning guarding aspect, it's certainly much more lenient regarding the payment, according to even Rashi and Shitam Betses. So that's very, very clear. So now in the Brisa, Rav Yehuda calls a tam more lenient than a muad. So this is the proof, because this Brisa is where a tam is more lenient than a muad. Clearly, it does not hold that an owner of a tam must pay for anything that the owner of a muad is not liable to pay for, including depreciation of the carcass. So what it's doing here, guys, is it's adding in the argument that's saying, you don't pay anything extra. And why should the damager pay for depreciation, because every other case in the Torah, like the pit, the damager doesn't pay for depreciation. So since it's capped at that value, there wouldn't be a case in this case of Tam where suddenly the owner would pay for depreciation if it never did in a case of Muad. Does that make sense? So we can't be talking about a case of depreciation. That's exactly the proof. So maybe we're talking about a different thing. Maybe we're not talking about depreciation. Having refuted Rabba's explanation of the dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rav Yehuda, Abaya refuted Rabba's explanation of the Gemara presents another explanation. Rather, Rav Yochanan said the matter of who benefits from appreciation, meaning the value when the carcass goes up, not when it goes down, of the carcass after death is the actual issue between them. Okay, so that's the issue at hand.